2001: A Space Odyssey stands out because its setting unfolds in three distinct locations. The film opens on prehistoric Earth, shifts to a moon base, and ultimately settles in deep space aboard the Discovery spacecraft. The set that left a lasting impression on audiences appeared aboard the spacecraft, and their impact is credited to the aeronautical specialists and engineers who contributed to the project. The rotating set used for hallway scenes required flawless framing to fully immerse viewers in a futuristic environment. This set, along with others like the Hilton Hotel lobby in Clavius Space, relied on symmetrical framing to emphasize the era's sophistication. Kubrick used an array of lighting techniques throughout the film. For example, the Dawn of Man scenes were shot using the front projection technique, which had been used in the past but not yet been popularized. This technique gave the leopard a unique appearance in the attack scene, as the frontal lights reflected off the leopard's eyes, causing them to glow. While largely replaced by CGI, front projection is still used in sci-fi films to avoid lighting discrepancies, as it mimics natural lighting and saves time in post-production. Another lighting technique found in 2001: A Space Odyssey appears in the iconic Stargate sequence. Special effects director Douglas Trumbull used a variation of the slit scan method called strip photography. This technique was not new, as it had been developed in the 1800s, but it brought realism to the journey that defied the present-day understanding of time and space. Coupled with cuts to distorted stills of Bowman's strong physical reaction, this scene successfully captures the awe and horror that would accompany such an experience. The apes in the Dawn of Man scenes are perhaps the most impressive element of costume design in this film and in film history in general. Kubrick felt that using realistic prosthetics allowed for more creative freedom, as it would be much more difficult to control the movements and behaviors of real apes. He employed skilled mimes who had studied ape behavior at length, and their attention to detail was so effective that it was rumored that 2001: A Space Odyssey did not receive an Academy Award for Best Costume Design because audience members were unaware that they were not real apes. Given that there is no spoken dialogue in the first 30 minutes of the movie, the mime's abilities to accurately depict primitive behavior was essential to the mise en scène. Due to the still nature of the backdrop, the viewer's focus is on the apes throughout these scenes, and the story is told exclusively through body language. The blocking of the shots had to be meticulously choreographed to ensure that the apes' actions were not only accurate but in frame, despite the chaotic nature of these scenes. As far as the deep space scenes, the costumes were essential in depicting a futuristic society. While modern-day understanding of physics tells us that the Pan Am grip shoes are less than realistic, the close-ups of the stewardess walking gingerly to avoid floating suspend our disbelief. We are reminded that this innovative technology reflects the higher intelligence achieved by the humans in this reality. Alternatively, the spacesuits used by Dave and Frank take inspiration from actual NASA suits from that time. Realistic details such as the airlock found on the helmet bring the spacewalk scenes to life. For example, as Dave ventures out into space, we hear nothing but his breathing, not unlike what an astronaut would hear in deep space. While in actuality Kubrick used a recording of his own breathing, the audience is oblivious to this fact and can easily believe that we are sharing Dave's experience. Later on in the film, when Dave attempts to rescue Frank and forgets his helmet, the audience immediately understands the significance of his mistake due to the attention to detail in prior scenes. The use of props in 2001: A Space Odyssey also supplement the narrative. The first example we see of this is in the masterful transition from the bone being tossed into the air to the spaceship floating through deep space. Apart from being visually captivating, this transition depicts the advancement of weapons over thousands of years, all without the use of dialogue. Kubrick also intentionally placed military logos on the spacecraft to communicate this metaphor to the audience. At this point, Kubrick has effectively established that the setting has changed, yet he adds on to this awareness through the props encountered by the characters aboard the spacecraft. Upon seeing the stewardess delivering drinkable food trays to passengers, she encounters a pen floating through the air due to zero gravity. To mimic the effect of zero gravity in an Earth-based film studio, glass and double-sided tape were used to suspend the pen. Had we been able to see the glass and tape, it would have immediately destroyed the illusion of being in space. Likewise, while it was not integral to the plot to show the astronauts eating, Kubrick understood that such details would enhance the film's aesthetic by differentiating the Discovery from other familiar spacecrafts of the 60s. 2001: A Space Odyssey was also one of the first films to use a character that was represented entirely by a stationary prop. The computer, referred to as Hal, is seen only as a camera lens with a red light and heard speaking in a monotone voice. Hal initially reflects the audience's omniscient point of view, but quickly devolves into an eerie, unwelcome presence. The scene in which Hal observes the astronauts deciding to power it off allows the audience to feel his paranoia. The camera darting between the two men anthropomorphizes Hal and advances him from bystander to antagonist. Most notably, the film's narrative is centralized around a mysterious prop. The black monoliths found in 3 separate locations, whose purpose is never clearly explained, serve as a narrative anchor throughout the film. One popular opinion held by viewers is that the monolith was intentionally designed to favor a screen, a reflection of human nature and source of higher intelligence. In the film's final scenes, the monolith appears before a dying Dave and presents itself in its final form as a portal. The imagery of the monolith between Jupiter's moon and the rest of our solar system in the beginning of the film is reintroduced in a different context. The audience can now recognize the significance of the monolith's placement and connect it to Dave's rebirth as a star child. Although more than 50 years have passed since its release, the elements of Mise en Scène in 2001: A Space Odyssey remain the blueprint for sci-fi film. The use of special effects in every scene of the movie elevates the narrative and makes a fantastic story believable. Unfortunately, it took several years for the general public to acknowledge this film as a masterpiece. Nonetheless, it remains the proverbial good science fiction movie, as Kubrick had intended it to be.